the United States right now, where a majority of the population, in spite of a relentless propaganda campaign by mainstream media outlets to effectively reflect Israel's narrative to the public and wall to wall solidarity with Israel across the political spectrum, in spite of that, the majority of the American public can see the reality of what is happening and wants to see a ceasefire. And yet, there's still not an incentive for the government to do what it's supposed to do, for President Biden to actually take a better position on this. There is a deeply embedded, honestly, racism. There really is no other way to put it. That the lives of one set of people matters and the lives of another set of people just simply don't matter. That is the fundamental framework. And it comes down to the fact that the United States continues to be a dominant player in world politics, immensely powerful. American policy can wreck economies or help them thrive. And that puts enormous pressure on a lot of countries to play ball. And you see that even with neighboring countries of Palestine and Israel that are US allies who clearly hate what is happening in Gaza right now, starting with Jordan and Egypt. Those are generally countries that are on the American team, so to speak, in the region. They can't stand that this is allowed to happen. They see it as extremely destabilizing and dangerous, but even they have to restrict their criticism to basically verbal pronouncements of being super upset with this, not daring to take concrete action to try to do what the Houthis in Yemen have done, to try to apply real meaningful pressure on Israel to stop this. And that is simply because they're afraid of falling out of favor with the US and what that could mean. So given that fundamental dynamic that the world is still and probably always will be to some extent ruled primarily by power and not by principles, I think that places enormous pressure. But ultimately, for me, there is not going to be an enforcement mechanism no matter what the ICJ does at the end of the day. That we have,
Yeah.
as long as US military, diplomatic, and financial support for Israel is unconditional, then Israel gets to do what it wants. And what we're hoping out of this, that the best case scenario is to increase the global isolation of the United States and Israel in terms of being the only ones defending Israeli occupation, apartheid, and this ongoing genocide right now, to create a climate in which some countries might issue arrest warrants for Israeli officials. We need more of this to simply have that pressure gradually increase to the point to where Israel finally understands that it's in its own best interest to change behavior and to fundamentally change the way it treats Palestinians, even if in Israeli society they're not really viewed as fully human, to understand that there are consequences for you living out your racism as openly as you do and that you have to change behavior.
And there's precedent for that, right? It was that kind of pressure that ultimately caused apartheid to fall in South Africa.